All right, welcome to the November 13th, 2024 Zionsville Park and Boards Recreation Board meeting. We'll start with roll call. Vice President Ryan Cambridge. Here. Secretary Michael Kaufman, he's absent. Chris Barksdale.
Here.
Kimberly Lane.
Here.
Chad Dilley. Here. Matt Milburn, he is absent as well too. So we have a quorum. All right, next is the approval of the October 9th, 2024 minutes. Everyone get a chance to review. Any questions, concerns? We have a motion to approve minutes as presented.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right, public presentation and comments. So we have a few people here. Does anyone like to come up to talk to us? Please state your name and address.
Absolutely. My name is Michelle Gross-Stark, and I live at 11920 East 200 South with my husband Ken. We've lived there since 2006, and my public comments today are around the Union Woodlands Park. And you should have received letters from us, and several of the members in our community were greatly concerned about what's been proposed to change. So I'd like to talk about that a little bit today. So basically, we're here to oppose the transition of the Union Woodlands, transition from the Cato proposal to Steve Pittman's proposal called Union Woodlands Ball Complex. I believe you've all received copies of what that is proposed to be. In our viewpoint, this is truly a political attempt, something similar to dangling a carrot to get something you want that's not easy to get, which is, in this case, a high-density housing area which has been historically denied in this area and is not meeting the guidelines and principles of our current comprehensive plan. In actuality, the density being proposed in this, which is tied into the parks requirement, is a density that's higher than the village and surrounding areas, which is causing us great concern. The developers working together in this agreement and joint plan should absolutely be ashamed with calling it Union Woodlands, because the plan not only eliminates majority of the woodlands in the area, it also impacts the wetlands in the area. And we have the public notice from the Army Corps of Engineers that addresses that and shows the multiple wetlands that would be impacted. This area, we've lived here for quite some time. My husband and I are both avid photographers, and we enjoy photographing and taking pictures of the abundant wildlife that we have. We have deer, great horned owls, eagles. We have brown bats in the area, and even coyotes, to name a few. This would definitely have a major impact in this plan going forward. Other areas that's causing us concern for this proposed park is that Country Road 200 South is truly a country road. It is not built to handle the traffic that would be associated not only with the housing development, but also the ballpark, the pickleball and ball fields that are associated. There's also great concern that due to the airport, they're not allowed to have lighting, and no lighting with such a large open area is just attractant to very negative behaviors in the evening hours. There's also a concern that, I guess I should say that finally and most importantly, the concern is the safety and what is proposed right at the end of the runway of the second largest and very rapidly growing airport. This is an area where we're proposing multiple fields for children to play and carry on. We should not be putting such a large amount of children in harm's way of an airport. It is in the direct line of the airport runway. And as we all know, issues happen most oftenly with takeoff and landing of airports, not to mention the noise associated with the airport and also the air quality concerns. And I can speak to that because I live very closely to the airport. Recently, I read this great article that was written about the Parks Department. It's called The Great Outdoors, and it highlighted Zionsville Parks Foundation celebrates habitat preservation and green spaces. It also mentioned in this multiple times that your mission is to preserve the habitat and also enhance and grow natural habitats. In no way or form does this park or the development, it does not preserve, it does not enhance, and it would not grow our natural habitats. It would only deter from that. So in summary, I ask that you uphold your mission and values and that you keep this land as the currently approved CATO or some form of a nature park that then would continue to preserve and enhance and grow our natural habitats. And good examples that we frequent parks all the time. Good examples of these parks would be like we have here at Turkey Foot or even nearby in the local area, Raymond Worth Park. So again, we ask that you take that into consideration. You do not approve such a park that would put children into harm's way and bring that much volume and traffic to our area. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Does anyone else have any other public questions, comments? Yes. Please state your name and address.
My name's Garrett Weeholder, live at 2400 South US Highway 421. So directly across from where this complex is, not the baseball field, but the complex is being put. And kind of had a whole summary of things I was going to say, but I think she pretty much nailed it all the way, every single point. So I'm not going to repeat everything she just said. I just want to get up and say, we agree.
Thank you, sir. Please state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Terry Borman. I live at 2714 South, 1200 East. I've lived there for between 30 and 35 years now, so I have watched it grow from a completely rural to a little bit more mixed, but this is beyond mixed in my mind. This is not what the area is intended for, and I'm going to be like the other fine gentleman. I'm not going to repeat my list. I actually left it at my seat because she's covered it so perfectly, and I have nothing else to add. I just want to support her.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you. Good evening, please. Yeah. Oh, no, good. Just make sure you state your name and address, please.
Hey, my name is Tom Chope. I live at 11050 East 200 South. My wife and I have lived there for 34 years, and like everybody else, I will echo what this fine lady said. It's my thoughts exactly. It's bad. The thing that I remember is when that area was rezoned, that area was supposed to be set aside for a park. And we got to vote on that. And that was one of the things that allowed me to vote yes for that rezoning for the development. And I think it's a bad idea. And like I said, we've lived there for 34 years, and we enjoy the peace and quiet of the country place. And I imagine that the guy that owns the winery on the corner would feel the same way. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? All right. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the comments. Next, we'll go to Zionsville Parks Foundation updates. Kim?
Yes, the foundation held its first fundraising event, Parks and Pastries, on October 25th. They had a sold-out crowd and 9 corporate and individual sponsorships. Speaking at the event was Superintendent Logsdon, Mayor Stair, and Martha Hoover of the Patachou Foundation. And also at that event, they gave its first Acorn Award for outstanding volunteer contributions, and this went to Elizabeth Mueller, and an oak tree will be planted in her honor. They continue to have a presence at all park department events and just want to keep raising awareness of their mission and sharing plans for the Carpenter Nature Preserve. And their annual fundraising campaign is underway, and the people will start getting some appeal letters maybe in their mailbox in the next few weeks. And they've also hosted some private tours for potential donors of the Carpenter Nature Preserve. And so if anyone on the Parks Board has anything they would like me to take back to the foundation, requests or ideas, just let me know. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right, we'll go to the staff reports. Superintendent Jared Logan.
Thank you, John. Good evening, Park Board. In the interest of brevity, I'll just highlight a couple of items from my report. Maintenance installed a new memorial bench both at Elm Street Green, as well as finished installing some at the Overly Warman fishing piers. They also installed our first trail counter on the Big Four, so we're excited to start capturing that data and just begin to express with analytics just how valuable our trail is for our community. Further, the team poured the first of a series of bike pads along the Big Four Rail Trail. This bike pad will host a repair station as well as bike parking, and it is located at the Zionsville Christian Church trailhead, where we have that shared area. And in that installation, as well as the other pads, will be from a previously awarded SEBA grant, Central Indiana Bicycle Association. And that is all from the superintendent report.
Fantastic. Next up, Director of Recreation and Services, Mindy Murdoch.
Good evening, everyone. All right, so October rounded out with 1,219 walk-ins to the Nature Center. We had quite the busy school season for there. Most of those were our nature connections with Eagle, Pleasant View, and Trailside, but we had over 18 school and 1 scout program for there. We also had several large events, of course, for October. We had our Trick or Trees, which had 678 participants. We did have 3 nights of Fright Nights. All 3 nights were able to happen, so we had about 724. So a little bit down from the 5 nights the year before, but we had more per night. So it's definitely going in a positive direction. A lot of good feedback from visitors on those. We also finished up the big one was we finished up with our Park and Play and with the Creek Stomper. So she is now going to storage for the winter. And just kind of like to highlight what, what Park and Play and the outreach has been doing. So the Creek Stomper season this year was March 30th to November 2nd. So she did participate in our Smashing Pumpkins event, which was a huge hit. This year alone, she reached over 8,000 participants. Last year was about 7,500. So we definitely reached more. Out of those, we had 3 private rentals, 30 Park and Play events, 3 visits to the farmers market, and then of course the various special events throughout there. And then just kind of keeping track of everything. Park and Play was something that we started in 2020 with the agreement with the board on getting the Creek Stomper. So since then we are just shy of 30,000 contacts in the community in those 4 years. So that's pretty awesome. We are still continuing with the Trail Hopper. She started her Discover Your Backyard, which have been pretty popular and interesting from the community. And she will also be in the Christmas in the Village parade. If any of the board are interested and want to walk with us, you're more than welcome to. But that's all I have, unless you guys have any questions.
Great work as always. Anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, new business. We'll go Carpenter Nature Preserve Phase 1 construction bid.
Thank you, John. Over the past month, the Phase 1 construction of the Carpenter Nature Preserve was advertised for bid. Recently, we closed that bidding process and collected 5 competitive bids for the project, which is pretty outstanding. Of those, the lowest bid, as well as the most responsive, would be for Matcon General Contractors out of Indianapolis. Their base bid with the first alternative comes into a total of $5,043,000. Just to give some perspective, the estimate for the project without the alternatives from our engineering firm was $5.2 million. So pretty excited to have a bid that came in under our estimate. And with your consideration tonight, we are ready to move forward with finalizing that contract to be executed by the board at the December meeting.
Does anyone have any questions about the bid?
Remind me again where the funds come from?
Come from several different ponts. The largest contributor would be the $3.5 million in grant receipts we'll receive as a part of the acquisition in the Land Water Conservation Fund grant for the project. Additionally, there are ARPA donations and impact fees that we'll utilize for this project.
I'd say of the contractors that were listed, MatCon's one I definitely heard of before, other ones I'm not familiar with, so I know they've done good work in the past, the things I've been exposed to, so I have good feelings about that.
Has our Parks Department done anything with them before?
We have not, at least in recent history, but we did review their other projects, and there are other municipal projects. But we did have REA call around, and they've kind of vetted them. They are a qualified contractor, and they did submit all the appropriate paperwork, so that's all being finalized, and we'll have a contract for legal review and finalization in the near future.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
When do they estimate beginning work?
I think the quickest determinant of that would be how long the contract negotiations work, but I'd anticipate first quarter of '25 if we get the deal signed.
Do the folks in finance here within the village look through the contracts, make sure that T's and C's are aligned? And I mean, is there like another financial review by financial professionals from the village? Or are we the final stop?
Yep. The park board would authorize it. Town council ultimately creates the budget.
Okay.
And then as far as legal review, we have our park board attorney. And there's several qualifying items they have to have in that bid packet as a part of the state statute for bidding on public work projects.
Okay. And all we're doing tonight is just to authorize getting the contract to the finish line?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, we won't ask for a signature tonight.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions? So do we have a motion to accept the bid as presented for the base bid of $4,765,000, the alternate one of $278,000?
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
All right, we'll go roll call vote. Vice President Ryan Cambridge,
Aye.
Chris Barksdale,
Aye.
Kimberly Lane,
Aye.
Chad Dilley,
Aye.
and I, John Slavich, say aye as well too. Motion carries. All right. Next, Turkey Foot Nature Park pedestrian bridge rehabilitation bid.
Thank you, John. Just this afternoon, we also closed the bidding on the Turkey Foot project. We only received one competitive bid for this project, so when you only receive one, it's always a little nerve-wracking, but I am happy to say that the received bid was from Morphe Construction, who just recently did our Big 4 rail trail widening project, and the bid came in at $598,000, with our engineer estimate actually being $672,547. So that is 12% below what our engineer estimate was for this project. So just like with the Carpenter Preserve, that information will be tabulated and presented to this board for authorization at the December meeting should you wish to move forward with this bid received. And this entire expenditure is within the 2024 budget, our construction line.
Does anyone have any questions about the Turkey Foot pedestrian bridge rehabilitation bid?
That's 2204500490.
Yep.
000. Okay.
questions? Nope.
Nope.
Do you have a motion to approve the bid as presented? Of, 598,000 by Moby, is it
Murphy.
Murphy,
Yep.
sorry.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Vice President Brian Cambridge,
Aye.
Chris Barksdale,
Aye.
Kimberly Lane,
Aye.
Chad Dilley,
Aye.
and I, John Slavich, say aye as well. Motion carries. All right, Holiday Bridge pedestrian railing.
Thank you, John. Staying inside the Turkey Foot corridor as you leave the park and walk on the public trail through the Holiday Farmers community, there is the red bridge over Eagle Creek that leads to the rustic trail that'll get you out to Pleasant View Road. So that trail corridor, former road, has officially transferred over to the Town and Park Board. So in order to update some of the safety features on that trail, we need a pedestrian rated railing for the bridge. So earlier this year, we released an RFP for fabrication of a pedestrian rated railing for that bridge, designed and engineered by REA. And we had MoFab Incorporated out of Anderson with a return proposal for $98,400 to add the pedestrian railing. And I'll give you a image of that real quick. Sorry about that. So this is the red bridge over Eagle Creek. Currently, we have bollards and barricades at the front just due to not having this railing in there just yet. And the project would essentially add a railing to match the red aesthetic of the bridge on each side and actually tie into that existing guardrail for vehicular traffic. And upon your consideration and approval of that, we could move forward with that project as well.
Did we get the images in our packet at all?
I thought so.
It came in like
Separate email.
separate email,
Separate
yes.
email. Okay.
The images might have been cut from the official packet. But I do believe the MoFab quote was in there.
Yeah, the mo-
The quote-
The
quote
quote's
is
in
in
there.
there for
I'm
sure.
looking for the actual, like, what the end product would look like.
So there's a diagram on the screen if it's on your screens there. So with pedestrian rating, there has to be a certain distance between each bar to not allow for, younger individuals or pedestrians to fall through those bars, as well as a certain height, not to, catapult a bicycle tire over that railing and to safely kind of contain them. So develop to the standards for trail design and bridges on a pedestrian network. The railing would be approximately 3 foot 8 inches tall and run the entire length of the bridge.
I think this document was sent at a different meeting
It's
when
been a few
when we
meetings ago.
approved
Yeah.
the bid documents, I think is what that was. We saw, we were given this document.
Okay. Yeah, sorry if that wasn't included tonight.
So it doesn't really materially change the actual Holiday Farms Bridge, the iconic bridge.
No, and that's why we wanted to match the color, because we didn't want to have a stark contrast. We just wanted it to blend, but also keep everybody safe.
No further questions for me?
Any questions? Other than just, not familiar with MoFab, but I see they've been around for their over 50 years, so they've been vetted as well too?
Yes, yep.
Is this close to what we were expecting from a bid standpoint?
Yeah, yep.
Is this out of operating? or-
Yes, it'll be out of the
Okay.
construction line as well.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, do roll call vote. Vice President Brian Cambridge,
Aye.
Chris Barksdale,
Aye.
Kimberly Lane,
Aye.
Chad Dilley,
Aye.
And I, John Slavich, say aye as well. Motion carries. All right, moving right along. Mulberry Fields fence rehab.
Thank you, John. So our fencing from 2008 out at Mulberry Fields encases the splash pad as well as the playground. In recent years, it's just become more and more dilapidated. Many of those vertical posts are beginning to slough, and we're losing a board, it seems every other week, that we have to tack back on. So this is simply just to replace in tow that existing fence as well as add a gate for maintenance so they can more easily get into two of the areas they need to regularly get into for maintenance of the splash pad. So we sent out a request for this project for multiple fencing companies, and Superior Fence and Rail came in at the lowest at $13,790.53. This again could be accomplished with our existing operating funds this year. Happy to answer any questions. The goal is the exact same aesthetic as what exists out there today.
Will this replace everything, or are we just doing a major repair?
Completely rip out, haul away, and
Okay.
replace.
Does that include the posts as well?
Yes. Yep.
All, I'm assuming, pressure treated?
Yes.
lumber?
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyone have any questions? What was you said 13,793.
$790.53.
For 577 lineal feet.
Yep.
Seems affordable.
That seems pretty good.
That's like,
I mean, it's not a picket fence, but
yeah, that seems
I was pretty happy with this.
not terrifying, so
Right.
that's, yeah.
I'd make a motion to approve.
We have a second.
A second.
Vice President Ryan Cambridge.
Aye.
Chris Barksdale.
Aye.
Kimberly Lane.
Aye.
Chad Dilley.
Aye.
And I, John Slavich, say aye as well too. Motion carries. All right, Starkey Switchback lumber purchase.
Speaking of lumber, so the boards that are the face of the Starkey switchbacks, just through years of good service, have become inundated with mildew and have weathered beyond kind of their usable life. So this is a project that we could handle in-house as far as converting those, swapping out with in-kind boards. We would also paint them with a grip paint. They have certain paints that you can add a substrate to for more of a tactile grip. So we would allow these boards to kind of overwinter and become less green, and then we would paint those and install probably in 2026. But just wanted to purchase the lumber and get it stored so we could begin to let it age a little bit. With your consideration this evening, this would be for the purchase from Lowe's for 662 by 6 by 12s pine boards,
What's your threshold to approve?
5,000.
And you would anticipate holding off on this until the spring, or when would the install take place?
2026. So we'd hold on to them for a whole year, but we want to get them to start
Got it.
so we can apply the paint and it'll
Oh, so
appropriately
you're gonna paint them in advance? of
Yes, yep.
install? Got it,
assembly line it.
got it.
And that's to allow all the pressure treat, right?
To let the wood,
Dry out.
dry.
Mhm.
Yes, thank you. It's great when it's green for putting it in and bending it, but when you want it to actually absorb whatever you're trying to put on it, you want it to age a little bit.
Again, to make everyone aware that, also online, this is the switchback coming from the Big Four Rail Trail going down into Starkey Park.
Thank you.
Yep.
And if you wanna see why we're replacing it, go out on a slightly moist day.
In the interim, we will be adding some more grip tape to those to assist with that, but ultimately, it's just end of life for those boards. And
You
this is the
know,
correct move.
I was trying to remember where we were, but, it was on a dock in Canada, and they had, it was like a fish camp, and they had rolled out, you know how you can buy asphalt shingling in rolls?
Mhm.
Like they
Yeah,
just
yeah.
rolled out asphalt
Yeah,
shingling.
yeah, I was gonna,
And I mean, I can't imagine that's insanely expensive.
either, yeah.
But it's very grippy, so that may be something to consider. I mean, even this winter, because it is very slippery.
Yeah.
So, and it seemed to hold up pretty well. But anyway, something to maybe consider as an interim solution.
Thank you.
But in the interim, move to approve.
You have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, Carpenter Nature Preserve Well Services.
So just part of our due diligence as we anticipate Carpenter Nature Preserve coming online in the near future. Try to pull up my PDF here. Well, regardless, there are several wells on site from back when Carpenter Nature Preserve used to be the Wolf Run Golf Course. Those are high-capacity wells. Currently, they're not in use. This would be to have a contractor, CG Well, come out and actually officially decommission those wells, close them up, and file the appropriate permitting to do so. So now that my image loaded, there's actually 3 wells on site. There is one over here by the clubhouse, one on the west side of the pond, as well as one on the northeast side of the large pond. So this would be for contract services to address 3 wells. There's a 6-inch and 2 8-inch wells, and this would be to abandon those. We sent out requests for quotes on this, and C&J came back for all 3 projects, approximately $21,000. And this would be paid out of the Carpenter bond to get that part of the project rolling.
And there's no need for the wells in your,
Not in this capacity, and they're so old, and we wouldn't utilize them for any of the structures on site either.
okay, you just wanted to.
Yep, just a different, it's kind of a fire hose for a garden situation.
So when you did the Carpenter bonding, did we project out kind of all these expenses? Was this something we anticipated, or is this a surprise?
We saw significant cost savings in closing, which is allowed for a little bit, and also the award for design services. So with that, we have a little bit of extra funding, and we wrote the bond to make sure that it would not only purchase and design the park, but also have funds for development.
Any other further questions? We have a motion to accept the bid from CJ for $21,000.
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
All right, Vice President Ryan Cambridge,
Aye.
Chris Barksdale,
Aye.
Kimberly Lane,
Aye.
Chad Dilley,
Aye.
and I, John Slavich, say aye as well. Motion carries.
All right, one more well item in there, and that would be the installation of our new well. This would be a 5-inch well with a 3-horsepower pump, as well as the permitting associated with reaching out to IDEM and establishing a new public drinking water source. So this would also be with C&J Well, and for the development and installation of a new well, it would be $25,950. So this well would be, if you can see my cursor, much closer to this area, kind of away from any of the existings, but again, being much more of a residential sized well for this new service. And that would supplement the drinking fountains and restrooms that'll be
At the new-
built
at the
right
new
there.
park, right.
Yep.
Right, the new
So we
playground.
actually pulled that out of the construction plans just because it seemed there'd be a little bit more nuanced permitting, and rather than going through that with a contractor, we just decided to pull it out and do it ourselves.
Subcontracted ourselves, yeah, so.
Yep.
Is that cost though part of that project that you originally planned for that project? Is the cost of the well, the 25,000, part of the original
Phase
budget
1.
for the project?
It was in early estimates, but again, we pulled it out just for a little bit of cost savings and just to do it ourselves. And by ourselves, I mean with a qualified well installation crew.
You get an idea of how deep it's gonna be?
The others out there are roughly around 150 feet, so I'm no soil scientist, but I'd guess it might be around there.
Any other questions?
The money for this is gonna come out of general
This would be the bond as well.
It would come out of
Yep.
the bond.
We're anticipating approximately $115,000 of excess from the bond just due to our cost savings of the design and closing.
Gotta have water.
We gotta have water.
Yeah.
You have a motion?
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
Vice President Ryan Cambridge,
Aye.
Chris Barksdale,
Aye.
Kimberly Lane,
Aye.
Chad Dilley,
Aye.
and I say aye as well too. Motion carries for the new well at Carpenter Nature Preserve.
Just to add some commentary, I think, to know, let you know, just to be transparent about my bias, just because we have cost savings somewhere, it doesn't mean we should always spend more.
Sure.
We should spend what we think is the right thing to do, not just because we have cost savings. So kudos on the cost savings, but if we continue to have cost savings with what we have within that bond, it doesn't mean we should go, and fill it every, maximize everything that we're getting with that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
All right, staying with Carpenter Nature Preserve, DNR right-of-way resolution established, yeah, I'm sorry, yes.
Thank you, John. All right, no more money to talk right now. As you recall, throughout the Carpenter Nature Preserve story, we found many partners, some of which are funding the Phase 1 construction of our project, but also DNR's In Swamp program, which is providing $4.5 million plus in funding to restore Eagle Creek to its natural kind of boundaries of what it wants to be based on hydrology and the history of the creek. So as a part of that, this requires no local funding, but the DNR would like to request the right to enter the Carpenter Nature Preserve so they can complete that work in the near future, as well as monitor it for the next 10 years once the project is complete. So just an exceptionally great opportunity for this preserve. And with this right of entry, we kind of give them the thumbs up so that they can get to work in the future.
No doubt. Do we have any questions? Do you have a motion to,
So move.
do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you. And sticking with the Carpenter Nature Preserve, last month we discussed the Land Water Conservation Fund language that we would incorporate onto the Carpenter Nature Preserve. And remember, our discussion was about the nuances required to allow all these restrictions and covenants to be stacked appropriately so that the meaning of all of it stays true to each of the grant programs, but we're able to do it in a way that doesn't contradict with itself. So earlier with the board, we shared what that language would be for the Carpenter Nature Preserve deed. So with your consideration this evening to have the Park Board President sign the Declaration of Special Restriction for the Carpenter Nature Preserve segments that'll be within the Land Water Conservation Fund program.
Does anyone have any questions?
So with the Land Water Conservation Fund, the park would have to remain in perpetuity as public recreation.
Which has always been the intent, right?
Always been the intent.
Yeah,
And is a requirement of the grant funding.
exactly.
So move.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
And one last item to piggyback on that, which was also shared with you, is the other program that we had to stack on top of what you all just approved this evening, which is the Next Level Conservation Trust program. This was a one-time program. It was a reimbursement for large land acquisition, so Carpenter Nature Preserve was the perfect project for that. The restrictions of this conservation easement is that it, again, is to remain open as a public space. There are some things we have planned with the master plan of Carpenter Nature Preserve that aren't necessarily congruent with the Next Level Conservation Trust program. And that includes the Nature Center. We couldn't have a facility that could make money. So while that is allowed in the Land Water Conservation Fund program, it was not allowed in the Next Level Conservation Trust program. So we purposely excluded those acres from this conservation easement. So if you're following along, we just are about to incorporate the land water, and next would be the Next Level Conservation Trust. And over the 215 acres, they overlap, but they aren't the same footprints, so slightly different. And if my image pops up here, I'll be happy to show you that. So here's a image of what that footprint looks like for the next level conservation trust. So it's only 171 acres of the 215. It excludes where we anticipate the future nature center as well as the potential White Oaks Common and maintenance barns. So with your consideration, we'll move forward and finalize those conservation easements. And upon circulation, I request your consideration to have the park board president sign that at a future date.
I'd make a motion to have the park board president sign this at a future date.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, resolution and establish ordinance, fee ordinance for 2025.
Thank you, John. So just an update to our annual fee ordinance. For the most part, our programs are remaining the same price. Shelter reservations, same price. The majority of the items compared to 2024. Key differences are we have included our sponsorship lines. Those have just been a separate program, but since it is revenue, we wanted to capture it in the fee ordinance. And as well as we established a fee for food trucks, since we're having more and more events with food trucks present, and that fee would be 10% of sales on that date. So again, those revenues go back into our non-reverting operating, and that's what helps us fund all the wonderful programs we do for our community.
Fantastic. Anyone have any questions about this resolution?
I just question the fee for, I'm not seeing it on here right now, but I saw it earlier, like field rental. Seems really, really inexpensive. I know we want to encourage people to come, but it just seems like not very much.
Yeah, and we are taking a look at that. So the lighting fee, which you see is exponentially more, that truly covers the cost of the electricity to turn on those lights. But we don't have the same comparison for the operations of those fields. So one of our 2025 goals is to begin to calculate the maintenance and the upkeep of those fields and then bring that into a more adjusted number for that actual cost. So definitely a priority we want to do. But again, our 2020 goal was just to invite the teams back, but I think we've got them now. So
Yeah, okay.
it's time to start covering our costs.
Any other questions? So we have a motion for resolution 2024-6. Establish of the fee ordinance for 2025.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, 2025 transcription services.
Has it been occurring for the past couple of years, we've been utilizing a transcription service for these meetings. So as I say these words, we have a contractor that is typing them out, and then that becomes a part of the public record as you all approve the meetings, the minutes in the following meeting. So this would just be to have those services in 2025. The rate is identical to the 2024 rate, which is 20 cents per line. I will say, as we saw this contract coming for renewal, we did begin to explore AI and the potential for transcription services through AI, and then they would be vetted by staff. But after conversations with our team, I just don't know that we have the capacity to review those. So right now, this service providing those for us and then a quick review is much simpler with our operations.
Jared, what's the, like, ballpark annual cost for that?
It's just depends how long we talk, but it is around $200 to $300 per meeting.
Okay.
Can we start dinging board members for?
Long-winded
You're
is-
wasting time right now.
I'm not looking at you. I'm not looking at
Wasted
you.
words.
It's another 4 lines.
I make a motion to approve. Let's get this on with.
We have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, old business.
44 cents.
200 South Park improvements.
So earlier this year, we had a park improvement project proposed to this board in the past couple of months. And this would be associated with the Union Woodlands and Reserve of Union Woodlands projects that are occurring in Union Township, just east of Michigan Road. I believe the developer is here this evening to provide an update on that project, so we'll invite them up.
Good evening. Make sure you state your name and address, please.
For the record, my name is Steve Pittman with Pittman Partners. With me tonight is also Wayne Falstad with Pittman Partners. And you guys gave us a homework assignment the last time we were here, and so we went to work and wanted to report back to you some of the things we learned out. But to kind of start with the big news first is that from all the research that we did, I called up Jared and I said, hey, I've got bad news for you. This is not a project that we should move forward with for some of the things we found out. And I'll go through that with you. And he said, yeah, that's kind of where we've gotten as well. So I wanted to go through that, and that might make some of these folks here tonight glad. But you guys want me to come back and report on kind of the lighting and the height of structures and those sorts of things. But just kind of go back to the project. So this aerial photograph, you can see the Hamilton County Executive Airport. You can see the area, the new development that we're proposing, the reserve at Union Woodlands, some of the things around it. Zionsville Schools has just bought a piece of property up there. And you can see the area that's hatched in red called Union Woodlands. And Union Woodlands is a project that's already been approved where Lennar Homes is going to be building 183 houses. And part of that project, the developer committed to gifting 25 acres? 35 acres to the Parks Department. And then as part of that, when we started on our project, we had talked about building a sports facility because Zionsville Little League Baseball and softball and their Challengers program are starting to turn kids away. So that was kind of what we embarked on and what we were attempting to do. And when we started that project, you can see the sports park area there. I've put a red line there. That's the existing runway protection zone. So when Union Woodlands came in, the airport started negotiating with Platinum Properties and said, that's the line that's important to us, and we want to put an easement on that ground, acquire that ground, whatever they need to do. They didn't want anything to go in there. And they plan on also going in there and cutting the trees down in that area because they don't want any things that could be harmful or, for air traffic. And so that's kind of what we're working off of. And after I left you all last time, we were calling the FAA, never got a hold of a human being to talk to. We then get to NDOT. NDOT has an aviation division. It's the first helpful person that I talked to, and I was talking to about what we were trying to do, and he had a lot of concerns about this, and he explained it to me. And I told him, gosh, we've been reaching out to the airport. We haven't been able to get anything out of the airport. And we're apparently reaching out to the wrong guy. We're reaching out to a guy named Sean White. But so he put us in touch with a guy named Sam Sachs. And Sam Sachs, I guess, is the director of the airport. And he provided us with some additional information. And there's a lot of complicated stuff there. You have noise-sensitive zones that you can still build houses in, and you can still do things in it, but you're basically notifying the world you're in a noise-sensitive zone. And then you have what's called a runway protection zone, and that's what affects you all. So currently that runway is about 7,000 feet. And so an airplane can get on that runway today and fly to Europe without stopping anywhere to refuel. And based upon the length of that runway, the runway protection zone is where that existing red line is that you see right there. Then you see a gap, and then just south of that, you see where Lennar is going to be building their homes. What we didn't know, and then what was explained to us, is their master plan that they may or may not ever build, but they could, would take that runway to 7,700 feet. If they take it to 7,700 feet, that runway protection zone runs all the way to where the Lennar Homes area is. So when I first started hearing that the airport didn't like this, I was pretty nonchalant about it, didn't put a lot of faith in that, because this is an exhibit that we put together that the airport, part of their charter and their funding with the FAA is that they're to oppose everything. So if you look at those two lines, they opposed Brookhaven, they opposed everything south of Brookhaven. If you look over the line going into Westfield, they opposed a new school, a middle school is going to be built on State Road 32. So we didn't really understand the severity of this runway protection zone. So from talking to them, I think what they're comfortable with in that area that will be part of the future runway protection zones, they don't want pickleball courts, they don't want baseball fields. And by the way, I did learn you can't put lighting in these areas, but it has to be downward facing and shielded. So if you're ever up against this situation again, you can do that. So what they're okay with going there is more of a passive nature park that would go in there. And I think Jared had talked about trail systems and talked about, I think, frisbee golf and some things like that. So because of this, we're going to go on our project. By the way, this is an exhibit here showing Lennar had to take all of their homes, send them to the FAA for approval, and there's also what they call a tall structure ordinance, and they were able to measure how tall they can get their structures. That's what that is. But what we're going to do because of this, not moving forward with that, we're going to go back and relook at our entire site plan on our property and redo the densities, redo the product, because part of our drive was to generate enough park impact fees and all to be able to fund this park. Now all of a sudden, we're not going to do a park like that. We'll work with Jared and maybe come up with another plan to bring to you guys for more of a passive park, if you guys want to participate. If you don't, we understand that as well. But I told Jared and the baseball folks, I think, because it's a shame right now that the community's not really able to take care of the baseball, softball people. I think they told me maybe, I don't know, 1,500 kids, 900 families, are involved in that. It's a really big program. But I told them I'm already looking at a different area, and also just to add some color commentary, I attended your Parks Foundation event, which was a terrific event. We happened to be the lead sponsor with our silo apartments at the farm, so we were glad to participate in that. And not only are we excited, but everybody that I talked to at that event is very excited about what you guys are doing up at the Carpenter Nature Preserve. And Jared and I talked about just north of that, you have the Midland Trace Trail. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Midland Trace Trail, but it's a terrific trail that, is coming through Noblesville and Westfield and is heading this way. It connects into the Monon Trail, and it goes through that area where just north of 32, west of 421, as an area where I think would be a great place for a future park and trail system that I'm going to talk to the Zionsville baseball people about looking at that area, and we could have these future conversations with you guys. But so I didn't want to leave this hanging where you guys didn't know if I had done anything or not, and Jared just says, hey, this isn't going to work out. I wanted you guys to hear about it from me. And so, I learned a lot. I feel bad that we're not able to move forward. We spent a lot of time and money on the design for the Zionsville baseball. And, but I think there's still opportunities to do something else, and we'll go back to the drawing board with our plans. We'll talk to Jared, and we'll be back before you guys, and you can decide if you want to do something or not. So thank you for your time, and I think it was good for us to go down this path.
Yeah, we appreciate your diligence, and thank you for sharing this updated information. So
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Thank you for following up.
You bet.
all right. Next is Big 4 Rail Trail widening change order.
All right. As we're closing out the Big 4 rail trail widening that occurred over last year, one of the items that needed addressed was some quantity discrepancies between our estimate within the document as well as what reality was. So per our contract, there is a standard that allows the contractor to renegotiate when there's significant change in the project, and this qualified as a significant change. So while we did receive credit in some lines, and we do anticipate another credit to follow, There is a surcharge for some of the excavation lines. So this change order before you this evening is for $38,953.55 to accommodate for that large quantity of changed work. So
So I know we had the change order because of the, we had to shift the trail with, I always forget the name of the neighborhood.
Spring Knoll.
Spring Knoll, yeah. Does that have to do with the?
That
this is
could have
part of this?
factored
Is it-
into
so
that.
That was they underbid that? Is that what I'm understanding, basically, is what they're saying?
There was some cushion built into the estimates, just based on some assumptions. But then just the design and reality, there was a small margin of difference in quantities. And again, so the explanation is, this is a significant change because the contractor might have utilized different equipment had they known that quantity difference. And they could have been more efficient utilizing other equipment. So it's just being a good player at the table, and they gave us a fantastic product. And this is within the rights of the contract. And we do have adequate funding to anticipate this change order.
Thank you for answering that question in advance.
Do you have any questions about the change orders presented? So the change order is for $38,953.55, is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do a roll call vote. Vice President Ryan Cambridge,
Aye.
Chris Barksdale,
Aye.
Kimberly Lane,
Aye.
Chad Dilley,
Aye.
and I, John Slavich, say aye as well, too. Change order passes.
Thank you. And I actually have one last item for you all. In 2023, the Park Board granted a temporary construction easement to the Storins, which are neighbors of Elm Street Green. This was to allow some renovations in their backyard. We have the temporary construction easement, notarized and recorded, but the contractor reached out letting us know that they're going to need a little bit more time. So that previous construction easement was going to sunset on December 1st, and the contractor would like to request until June 1st of next year. And that's just to put on a coating on the pool and utilize the park to get back in there. So again, being good neighbors, I see no issue with this. They will make the park whole when they are done with it. So if there's any damage to asphalt or anything, we have photos from before they started their project. But rather than re-record and adopt a new temporary construction easement, we can just discuss it through email with all parties and agree to that if the park board agrees to extend to June 1st, 2025.
You see no reason, no
No
concerns?
concerns. Yep.
No concerns? Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right. Other board items? Anyone have anything else they could discuss? All right, claims. Everyone get a chance to review claims as presented. We have questions as for the claims. We have a motion to approve claims as presented. I make a motion. We have a second. Vice President Ryan Cambridge,
Aye.
Chris Barksdale,
Aye.
Kimberly Lane,
Aye.
Chad Dilley,
Aye.
and I, John Slavich, says aye as well, too. All right, our next meeting will be December 11th, 2024, at 7 p.m. We have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.